about being cranked up to 11. I don't think I could have ever imagined anywhere being as viscerally stimulating as India.
It's true, it's sometimes overwhelming for all the senses, isn't it? The colours, the sights, the sounds, the smells, the people. But what's been a real excitement for me is the fact that the houses have lived up to all that.
They've been so clever and so different and so original and so witty. In a way, I think they've shown me I just need to raise my own game. They challenge me like nothing. Sprawling fjords and glacial mountains give Norway one of the most invigorating and awe-inspiring landscapes in the world.
Are you excited to be here?
I like extreme places. I like places that are a long way away, hard to get to, beautiful, dramatic and different. And this has all of those things. We're up near the Arctic Circle.
With a population of little over 5 million, much of Norway remains remote and unspoiled. What do you think makes the architecture here particularly relevant and interesting for us, Piers?
This is the top of Europe, and it has a cold climate, extreme climate. And seeing buildings that respond to that type of environment, I think is really interesting. On our journey, we'll be discovering what it takes to design, build, and live in this rugged wilderness.
It's quite one of the most spectacular spots I've ever been to. We'll see how deep-seated tradition has either been embraced and updated,
This is, for me, personally, perfect.
or left behind altogether. Hospital, the word that springs to mind. Brutal hospital. We're taking a boat ride to Vega, a remote island 400 miles north of Oslo, where since the Stone Age, people have made their living from the sea. I'd be interested to see how much building there is on the coast, because the weather is so violent and so extreme.
Historically, I think only fishermen built on the shore. Nowadays, people are moving back to the coast because we can deal with that stuff with 21st century building technology. Vega Island is one of around 6,000 islands in an archipelago. There are just over 1,200 people living here. It's quintessential Norway and very quiet.
We're looking for a remote island retreat, built to blend in with the surrounding landscape. Well, there it is, but you'd hardly notice it, would you?
What's fantastic is that there isn't a gate and a sign and a driveway. Nothing's been cleared. There's just a cabin on a rock. This is Vega Cottage. This unassuming reinterpretation of a traditional fisherman's hut is in fact a modern, robust home, perched delicately in this landscape. It's the epitome of Norwegian understatement.
This is exciting, isn't it? The way that the house is cut around the rock.
There is such a tradition of levelling the ground, placing a building, whereas this shows you don't need level ground. You match your building to the landscape.
I love this, the way this is just cut round like a bit of carpet round a piece of skirting board.
To resist the extreme weather, the construction called for complex engineering and durable materials, including larch wood cladding and glass 4 centimetres thick.
It's really discreet to have the entrance tucked around the back, I suppose protected from the winter winds and the weather.
That's right, of course it's in the most sheltered bit, because otherwise you open the door and the gale takes it out of your hand.
The challenge for the architects was to build on rough terrain without damaging the landscape. Building on a tiny footprint, they've squeezed a lot of home into only 140 square metres. On one side are the bedrooms, 2 on the ground floor and a third for the kids tucked under the eaves. The other side of the cottage is given over to a single vaulted family room, divided by a chimney stack into zones for cooking, dining and relaxing. really, really like this house. And I love the fact that you walk straight in with something, it's family, it's all about family straight away. And then you've got this wonderful, stonking great
Hearth,
hearth.
which does everything cooking and warmth. This is an extraordinary piece of design, but what I like about it is that it's also quite ordinary.
Yeah.
These are ordinary pieces of wood, ordinary things that you can get pretty much from anywhere.
I think blingy
And
is
it's
there.
an ordinary form.
Yeah, yeah.
This is the most ordinary shape of a building. And yet, the way you put them together, the way you place them in a landscape, makes them into a piece of architecture. It's very still, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're very cosseted. I mean, imagine being here in an ice storm.
The sound would be incredible, wouldn't it, with the rain lashing against that window.
The windows are perfectly placed to respond to key views, but the house isn't only about landscape, and internally every inch of space is maximised.
I've come across one of these before on a
Space
boat.
saver.
Yeah, space saver.
We have to walk like this.
Oh, hi! That's nice, isn't it? I like the little sort of, what do you call it, a gangway?
Bridge.
Bridge, gangway, I like that a lot.
It's nice, isn't it? Really nice. There are kids' bedrooms up here. Yeah, they're lovely actually. They're really under the eaves.
I think the adults' bedrooms must be down here. This has got the proper picture window, so you can lie in bed and gaze out at the seabirds. But what's nice in here, P, is that you've got this window that opens, so you've got the breeze coming into the bedroom.
Actually, that's really nice. The flat that deals with the ventilation.
You can imagine on a hot evening, having the view and the sun setting and then coming up again moments later, and the breeze.
I'm meeting the Scandinavian architects Eric and Victor, whose passion for working in natural landscapes is what attracted the owners to commission them. Tell me about designing a house in this extraordinary landscape.
We kind of very early on realized that we didn't want to cut down any trees. We didn't want to blow away any bedrock, and we didn't want to, let's say, make a house that would dominate the terrain and would kind of take over.
The biggest problem here with the house was the wind coming from a big mountain over there, and it's actually the lifting force that is the main issue, keeping the house down. So how is this building anchored down to where it is?
Well, it sits on pretty big concrete columns actually, and they sit on reinforcements and bars that have been drilled into the bedrock for 1.5 meters.
What about physically constructing a building with that constraint of weather and climate?
The hardest part here, constructing it actually, was getting the material here without destroying the landscape. We had this small pathway leading up, of course, but that was only for carrying small things. So we constructed a sort of lift, and that helped a lot.
Besides this makeshift ramp used to get materials up to the house, the team, who could only build during the summer months, also used specialist equipment like this spider crane to leave a minimal impact on the land. This looks like it's always been here. How do you feel about this building and its relationship to its landscape and its context?
If you think about the roofscape of this house and the sort of landscape around us, there's no vents. And what this actually does is just a tiny little dent in the landscape. It's nothing more.
Silvered by time and the elements, Vega Cottage sits comfortably on its rocky outcrop. It's owned by theatre director Alex Eden, who built it with his siblings as a place to meet and, well, hang out. I've just spotted something out of this window. There are the two architects and Alex, the owner of this house, and they're naked over there, standing on the rocks. I think they're about to go into the water. If that doesn't explain what life in Norway is about, then I don't know what does. As if he hadn't revealed enough already, I caught up with Alex after his dip to find out what led him to build here in the middle of nowhere with his brother and sister.
My father was born here, so my grandfather and grandmother lived there all their lives. My father moved away, but we were every summer. It's my childhood paradise.
What's your sort of desire to come here? Was it about reliving your childhood, or was it about creating an escape from adult life?
I think it's an sometimes and to be really alone and to get some quiet and calm you don't really get in city life.
Alex and his siblings now have their very own fabulous family escape to gather in and share with future generations.
It's quite one of the most spectacular spots I've ever been to. Look at the view, and look at the fishing huts there, and then looking back at the cottage there. And in hundreds of years, this architecture hasn't really moved very far, has it?
But I like that sense of using thousands of years of knowledge and doing something that's built on that. In this landscape, I think that this utilitarian way of building really works.
I think it's utterly charming and discreet and just a little treasure.
The second stop on our Nordic adventure takes us to a home that couldn't be more different than the traditional houses of Norway.
We're heading for Valdal, to a mountainside overlooking the stunning Norwegian fjordlands.
The landscape may be typical, the house we're headed for is anything but. This one breaks all the rules.
Almost like an eagle's nest built on a precipitous cliff, this house is the work of renowned Norwegian architects who have a reputation for innovation. This is Summer House.
It's quite incredible, actually. It's brilliant, isn't it? It's like a grown-up treehouse, really, isn't it?
I mean, I think a complex site, steeply sloping, with a view in the trees, for me, personally, is perfect. I want to go and find out how it actually stands up here.
I'm going in. There's no road access here, but hopefully the house will be worth the hike.
This is something else.
I've seen houses built into rock, but this is the first rock I've ever seen that's built into a house.
This has got to be one of the most exciting rooms I've ever been in. And not at all what I expected. Just look at that! And the fact that it just slides into that concrete fireplace. This is incredible. This rock, you can see the strata all the way through. And it acts as a backplate here on the